Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and we got a great show lined up for you today. We are going to be talking about Epstein, Weinstein, Bieber, Diddy, Bannon, Thiel, and beyond. So much to cover. I do want to remind everybody, I need your support. Please consider supporting the broadcast via the links down below, the Buy Me a Coffee or the PayPal, $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Buckle up and get ready to make sense of the madness.
Great weather, just loving life, and a lot of stuff flying around in the news right now.
Yeah, especially in regards to Epstein, right? Yes,
Oh yeah.
the government shutdown ending, of course, getting a lot of mainstream headlines, and then surrounding this whole email dump, and there's more to come via Epstein. First of all, this is the first time in years that a significant dump of new information has happened, the vast majority of which is in regards to after Epstein's conviction in Miami. And that is extremely important because it gives insight into some of those relationships with people that absolutely 100% could not make an excuse and knew about his behavior after the fact. The media is trying to spin it as though, this somehow brings down Donald Trump. It doesn't make Donald Trump look good, but the publicly available information that has been around since post Mar-a-Lago arrest has not been good for Trump. And what do I mean? Number one, if you were paying attention, you knew that Trump and Epstein had a personal and friendly relationship. Epstein claimed to Michael Wolff, who is littered in these emails, and we'll be talking about quite a bit, that they were best friends at one time. I don't necessarily think that that's false. Again, they seem to have that type of a relationship, and that is reinforced with the information that Epstein is feeding not only Michael Wolff, but another journalist out of the New York Times, Thomas Landon Jr., who we will also discuss today. So when the headlines read Trump knew, okay, I want to make this extremely clear. We already knew that not only did Trump know, he went to one of the lawyers of the victims, Bradley Edwards, after he was contacted. So Bradley Edwards is one of the first people to get not only the Black Book, but the original flight logs, the stuff that was published by Nick Bryant that I've referenced many times. Bradley Edwards is on record several times, and we played it on the show yesterday, and we played a different version last week, saying that all the way back in 2009, he was the only one, Trump was the only one to speak with Edwards directly, and then when Edwards had follow-up questions, his people always got back to him, and he said that information did lead to important information about other individuals that were involved with Epstein, okay? So we already knew that Trump knew. We already knew that Trump went to the lawyer and he was the only one to give information. That, to me, says that any of the activity that he was involved with via Epstein was legal. Now, I've often told people that the projection that Epstein was running some kind of underage brothel is not, there is no client list. That is not what he was doing. What he did have was a harem of young girls and women. Some of these people were, in fact, overage, that he would use after, he was with them to curry favor with others, either by pimping them out or just kind of straight pawning them off. Yes, there's a blackmail aspect in there as well. However, if he could just, remain your friend, he didn't want to have to go to the blackmail route. That didn't mean that he wasn't collecting blackmail the whole time. Now, in these documents, and this.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
I got a quick question for you. I don't mean to ruffle you up here, but is there a chance that he was working as an informant with one of the U.S. agencies that have three letters, or maybe a foreign government?
Oh,
is that what some of this was about? Because he had so many, people from different countries. Obviously the Prince from England, Bill Clinton hanging out. Like, a lot of big names. Seems like if anybody had some dirt on some folks that he could use against them for whatever reason, it would be him.
Well, I would say this. There's nothing in the emails that I've seen right now that would directly point to that as a motive. But yes, of course. One of the things that is in these emails is Epstein's direct connections, again, after the arrest, to the Saudi Arabian royal family. And even, I believe it's Morocco, basically being a liaison or a diplomat in some of their foreign affairs. So yes, absolutely, Epstein would have been or could have been using these things, but at the same time, going back to what I was talking about with currying favor, with this one journalist in particular, and once again, if you guys want to watch this after the fact, I do show my work. Epstein gave New York Times journalists tips about Trump, but Landon never reported them. Okay, so that's interesting that this guy said, he was basically, talking up Epstein. This is a New York Times journalist. Think about this. The New York Times was working with Jeffrey Epstein to try to take down Donald Trump, and they weren't the only one, and we'll get into that in a minute. So Epstein brings up this 20-year-old model that he dated back in 93, and he said he dated her for a couple years and then pawned her off onto Donald Trump. Now, she at one time actually did file suit against Trump, but it got dropped. But even in that suit, it wasn't anything that was like a physical sexual assault. Essentially, the claim was that she had went out with Donald once, and then on the second date afterwards, Donald jumped into bed with her uninvited, but he didn't do anything. Like, they had a conversation, and she said that she didn't sleep with anybody on the first date, and then he jumped into bed in the second date. But, as far as I've seen, there was never any, forcible anything, right? So, doesn't surprise me. Another thing that Epstein was feeding journalists was him and his relationships via these not only models, but these beauty pageants. Again, all this is on the public, has been, everybody knew, Donald Trump was running Miss Teen USA. One of the other headlines was when Jeffrey Epstein talked about Donald being in his house and the victim's name is redacted and talking to her for hours. All the evidence shows that was Virginia Giuffre Roberts. Virginia Giuffre Roberts, who committed suicide several months ago. Her book recently came out, Nobody's Girl. And in it, she, once again, even though she had done it previously, exonerated Trump of any wrongdoing. The Trump obsession in the emails, however, is over the top. So, I mentioned Michael Wolff. And to me, Michael Wolff is an opportunist. He's a bad actor in this case in many ways, and I'm going to tell you why. Because he's not going in there like a journalist. He's going in there as a job to smear Trump. And I'm going to just show this email. I haven't seen the media pick up on this yet. Okay, so this is an exchange between Epstein and Michael Wolff all the way back in February of 2017. Now, for those that don't know, Michael Wolff is the one that wrote the book on Trump, basically totally bashing him. In that book, by the way, Michael Wolff's being sued, and maybe he's right, by the way. I'm not saying he's wrong about all these things, but he certainly takes a perspective. He's being sued about that birthday card that Trump supposedly, drew the silhouette of the woman on a type thing. My question is, why did he sit on that for so long? And if he has that birthday book, it's not just Trump that sent him a card. There's a bunch of other names in there. But this might give you a little insight into why. So this is Wolff contacting Epstein. He says, "So, I'm doing this Trump book for a pile of money." And with so far, I literally, when I was thinking, when these emails first came out, okay, and I was thinking about this, I knew there were going to be people out there that were immediately going to call Wolff an agent of this or an agent of that. And always in my mind, he just seemed like a social climber, a lapdog, an opportunist, somebody who was greedy, that was sitting. And this email just shows it. So he talks to Epstein about it, wants to get together. He's already been talking to Epstein for 2 years, all the way back in 2015, to try to take Trump down. Now, Wolff has said the only reason he was hanging out with Epstein and buddy-buddy with Epstein is because he wanted intel from these circles. I don't buy that for a second. Intel is one thing, yes, but power, money, those things are really what Michael Wolff is about, and the distortion of the truth. So that just kind of scratches the surface of what we've seen so far. There was over 23,000 single frame documents. It's kind of upsetting to me they went in this format. Basically, they went to a scanned JPEG format instead of a PDF file. I'd say about 2,000 to 3,000 of these are just kind of like the forms on the end of emails. But there are a ton of other exchanges. There are other journalists that I haven't seen people dig into that are also mentioned in this. Paul Krasner amongst them. I've got to go through more of these emails and see what significance he may have.
You mean you haven't been through all 23,000 yet, Jason? Come on.
Yeah, we went live the night that they were released because essentially the House Democrats, first of all, the framing of the media that it's the Democrats that got these files released, again, it plays into this right-left Johnny nonsense and is 1,000% not true. The person at the forefront of getting these documents released is a guy named Thomas Massey out of Kentucky. He's probably our best congressman. And I mean, if you really want to be America first, if you really want to be, straight talk, no bull, this is the guy. And right now, Donald Trump is actively trying to take Massey and Rand Paul out in Kentucky. That should alarm people, because on one end, just like Bradley Edwards, the lawyer, has said, there's nothing in these documents that incriminates Trump in any way. Does it make him look great? No, it's not. It's a lose-lose for everybody. Everybody wants to know why these files aren't coming out. It's because that just scratches the surface. The lose-lose on all these powerful people, yes. But then when you get into the institutions, you get into the arms dealing internationally, you get to the point where not only do they treat people and women like things, but then you get into the young girls and underage aspect. It's too much. That's why it's being covered up. Not because Donald Trump is, specifically guilty of any crimes. And Dershowitz, who's seen a lot of these files, if not the vast majority out there, he's out there talking about it. This isn't going anywhere. Two of the other individuals in these email exchanges are people that would be very close to quote-unquote MAGA and Trump. And that would be Peter Thiel, which more and more people are starting to become aware of. Peter Thiel is a very, very powerful billionaire businessman, part of PayPal back in the day, part of the rise of Facebook back in the day. Currently, the head of Palantir, a steering member on the Bilderberg Group, probably the most powerful and private think tank on the planet. And he was Trump's technology secretary in the first term. Also had a lot to do with getting Trump reelected this second time around. J.D. Vance, an acolyte of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel funded his original political campaign. And Thiel even went on Joe Rogan. And if you don't think that Thiel was the one kind of orchestrating this like all-star podcast circuit for Trump and Musk and others on that tail end that led into Joe Rogan, it wasn't Barron, everybody. I'm sure Barron said something to his dad. It was Peter Thiel. And when he was interviewed by Rogan, they kind of started whimsically talked about Jeffrey Epstein. Rogan even brought up my good friend and great researcher and author's work, Whitney Webb. And it was funny because Peter Thiel kind of just like brushed it off. Because Thiel knows that Whitney Webb has done a multitude of pieces on him. And Thiel was really trying to deflect, in my opinion. He's in these emails. Now, I knew that they had a relationship before. Again, this is just reinforcing a lot of the stuff that's already been out there. We had communications via Thiel and Epstein's Rolodex many, many years ago. But there was never any like personal communications. Well, now we have one. And in it, Jeffrey Epstein basically said that I want to get it exactly right. Where is it? Let's do it live here because Bannon is the next one that we're going to talk about that's in these emails. but we'll put it up behind us. There's Thiel. So he's talking to him on vacation. And by the way, this email that the email address from Jeffrey Epstein is like JE whatever on vacation at gmail.com. And he says, Epstein also complimented Thiel on his Trump exaggerations, not lies. Can't complain thus far, Thiel answered, to which Epstein replied, December visit me in the Caribbean. So these people have absolutely met. And Thiel, in my opinion, stabbed Trump in the back in the first administration. He absolutely stabbed him in the back via challenging the election in 2020 and even prior to that. But he's a very, very powerful and smart guy, and he's tried to frame himself as a libertarian, etc. But no, he's just another one that was willing to work with people like Epstein for whatever reason, whether it be intelligence, power, profits. Maybe more of these emails will shine the light on that. So let's get to Bannon. Bannon, a part of the first Trump administration, one of these people.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the guy with the glasses. He was like, didn't he get, what happened with him? Didn't he get thrown out or?
He was thrown out. He was thrown out pretty early in the administration, right? He had been this political strategist prior. He comes out of kind of the Breitbart days, but wasn't just Breitbart. Bannon's a really smart guy and a rich guy also. I mean, I don't know how rich he is after all the court cases and them throwing him in jail, but he played both sides of the political spectrum quite a bit. For instance, he produced the Michael Moore film Sicko. So in a follow-up to that, I think the Fahrenheit 11/9, the one on Trump, Bannon actually met with Michael Moore off camera because they had a relationship. Another producer of that film, Sicko, was actually Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. So if you really want to see the incestuous nature of these individuals, they are all in, it's not even back rooms together. It's at the same parties, at the same events. This is how this actually works. But Bannon got taken out pretty early. They framed him as a white supremacist and a racist and a Nazi. And Bannon has a ton of faults. I don't think he's any of those things, right? So Bannon, essentially, in this time period before Epstein gets arrested again by the SDNY, and he's having all these other lawsuits and legal troubles, for instance, losing to Bradley Edwards in a lawsuit. And by losing, he didn't let it go to trial. As soon as it was about to go to trial, he conceded. He had to write up an apology, admit wrongdoing, and then give Bradley Edwards an undisclosed amount of money, which I would imagine is probably ungodly. But Bannon is sitting on, from what we know, it may actually be more, 8 hours of interviews with Epstein. And this email exchange, and this is just a short one, I'm wondering if more is going to come out, actually coincides with that. So in several exchanges with Epstein and his business associates and friends, he boasted, relationships with power figures in media. In a 2018 exchange with Bannon, Epstein says, there are many leaders of countries we can organize for you to have one-on-ones if Bannon agreed to spend 8 to 10 days in Europe. If you were going to play here, you'll have to spend time. Europe by remote doesn't work. So in other words, he's telling him that if he wants to tape these things, and I don't know where the location of these interviews are, I would now imagine that this is where they cut the deal, where Bannon, interviewed Epstein. Epstein was 100% trying to restore his reputation. Again, in these email exchanges, and all this stuff was kind of known on the peripheral. It's just reinforcing the actual narrative, in my opinion. Epstein sought to restore reputation after guilty plea documents reveal. And essentially, he's talking to an individual that is getting a lot of the articles that are exposing Epstein either delisted or getting pushed down in the page. And they're having a conversation about a particular Huffington Post article that paints him in a negative light that they're trying to get taken down. So, listen, Epstein really thought, number one, he was never going to do actual time for his crimes. And number two, he was going to be able to restore his reputation. And why not in America, where, whether Bill Cosby's reputation got restored or not, he's not in jail. And just a couple days ago, a lot of people are unaware of this. And I think that there's a good possibility it could go through, even though a lot of people are doubting it. Harvey Weinstein is on appeal right now, and he is trying to get the conviction in New York overturned. We'll see if that happens. But, about 5-6 months ago, he went on Candace Owens, and Candace Owens was shilling for Harvey Weinstein.
That seems a little odd, and I've seen stories about. By the way, we're deep in the weeds with Jason Bermas here, brought to you by River City's Reader. I've seen some stuff about Diddy possibly having, or he's trying to hit Trump up for a pardon or something. Man, they better not pardon this guy. I know that. I just after the stuff that we do know about with him, I'm kind of disgusted that he didn't get a longer prison sentence in the first place. But to your point. It seems like the more well-connected, the more money you have, the more things you can get away with, I guess.
1,000%. And to that point, now, again, I have to go through these emails myself. I've only read some of the stories on the peripheral. But allegedly, these emails cover some of the falling out with Bill Clinton. And again, if you look at the timeline on these things, like back in 2015, and you see that Epstein is working with Wolff and others, to kind of defame Trump, and all these people are worried that Trump is going to get in, and they're actually talking to Jeffrey Epstein about it. In fact, in one email exchange, literally, Epstein says he's the only one that can take Trump down. Now, this makes me believe this is why Trump went to the Epstein-Clinton relationship prior, when he was asked about it via Sean Hannity, and that clip went viral. I think he kind of knew that Epstein was gunning for him. But these new email exchanges seem to show some of the reasons that there was a falling out between Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. There's also an allusion to the fact that Hillary Clinton was sleeping with Vince Foster, the person who committed quote-unquote suicide in the woods, and I think there was like 2 bullets involved. It was a pretty shady deal, the Whitewater scandal, etc.
Okay.
Now, those rumors have been around forever that Hillary Clinton was having an affair with not only Vince Foster, but the partner at the law firm with Vince Foster. They were all at that law firm, Webb Hubbell. In fact, we'll do that one semi-live here. I didn't plan on talking about Webb Hubbell, but we'll show people. Again, this is, if you want to see it, if you think that Chelsea Clinton is the biological daughter of Bill Clinton, I would urge you to look at what I am about to show on the screen here. So I just type in Webb Hubbell and Chelsea, and even in these little images right here, we'll hit the images. There's no doubt. I mean, they have the exact same face, okay? She doesn't have Bill Clinton's face. She doesn't have Hillary Clinton's face. She has Webb Hubbell's face. And there's actually...
She does. I'm looking at Webb Hubbell right now. That's interesting. Well, back in the 50s, you'd have, like, the neighbor kid that looked just like you, but you just didn't talk about it. And here we are again.
Well, Bill Clinton obviously has had many an affair. That is not, debatable. Even when he was running for president, if you were paying attention, there was plenty of evidence that he was riding around with Jennifer Flowers in Arkansas doing cocaine and, having affairs with even more women. They definitely have a relationship, but it's not one of monogamy. Let's just put it that way. And again, so it seems like some people that might have sexual relationships with them end up dead. So there is that. So these email exchanges, again, are getting into those relationships with Clinton. Now, you mentioned Diddy. Look, a lot of these people are just simply unaccountable, and like I talked about, they hang in the same circles. We have the picture of Harvey Weinstein with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And by the way, let's not forget that Harvey Weinstein actually hired, and we'll show everybody this, for a lot of the people that were accusing him, he hired a privatized security agency known as Black Cube. You can go check out Harvey Weinstein's Army of Spies over at the New Yorker. And Black Cube is made up of ex-IDF and Mossad agents. Okay? So these guys know each other. Harvey's essentially running Hollyweird. Epstein is, running all of these different girls. We have people that have never been prosecuted. One of those people in that circle, we mentioned Diddy, is a guy named Ron Burkle. Okay, and anybody can go look up Ron Burkle. I'm showing an article here. Diddy's billionaire buddy, Ron Burkle, is no stranger to controversy. In fact, he didn't have a jet called the Lolita Express. His jet was called Air F1. I'll let you fill in the blanks. It's not Air Force One.
Rather bold there.
Yes. So he had that plane. In fact, there's a famous picture of Bill Clinton getting a massage on what appears to be, I think, a plane or in an airport, and apparently that has to do with Ron Burkle's plane and not Epstein's plane. Well, I don't necessarily follow the guy, but I think I might have mentioned it here. I've been watching that Tulsa King, that Sylvester Stallone get up.
Great show.
Guess who's
I haven't watched any of the new ones. Don't spoil it.
I did watch a couple of the new third season. I won't spoil it, but I will give you a spoiler, is that if you watch the opening credit, guess who the producer of that show is? Ron Burkle. So, I mean, these guys, I just want to say they're shameless. And I'm sorry, but billionaires, for the most part, everybody, they don't look at you and I as people or human or something that they're even comparable to. We are things at best. And sometimes, I mean, we're talking subhuman, we're talking pets, we're talking insects. That's how we are looked at. And these people really, truly believe, and their hubris and arrogance is on display with a lot of these emails, that they will never be held to account. Another person in these emails that seems to be a fixer for Epstein and is very buddy-buddy with him after the fact, and hey, you got this kind of money, it's not a shocker, is a lawyer for the White House under the Barack Obama administration that is constantly referred to, and her name is Catherine Rumler. So look, I'm excited to see what's next, because Massey's got the votes, and again, it's not a right or left issue, it's not Democrats, okay? Massey's a Republican, he's got the votes. They're saying within the next 2 weeks, there is going to be a slew of other emails and communications out there. We'll see what happens with the press. I don't know if this is going to spur any new arrests, indictments, or even investigations, but it is going to cause, I would say, outrage in the court of public opinion in a lot of respects. And there's going to be a lot of spin, not just from the mainstream media, but from the quote-unquote alternative media. I've already seen a lot of spin from them as well. The bottom line is the raw documents are going to be available, and if the right people get their hands on those raw documents and they have further context, not only is this not going away, this story is just set to expand even further.
Oh, it's definitely not going away. I mean, it's generating too much clickbait on all these news sites for it to go away. And then being able to combine Trump with it, I mean, you're going to get even more hits. But it's interesting to hear, not the people that everybody know. And you're obviously well acquainted with all the players here in this game, if you will, of the predator class. Which, in case people haven't picked up on that or what Jason's referring to when he talks about the predator class, it is the billionaires, the world leaders, the folks that look at us like we don't really count at all.
Yeah, and Michael Wolff is a minion of them. He is a servant. He is a knee bender. Right. And look, this should also give people insight on how the media actually works. It's not about the truth. It's about political and economic motives, and that's it. And I'm not saying every journalist is like that. I'm certainly not like that. I have seen people fall to temptation. I have seen people fall to clickbait. I think most people are just kind of ignorant or don't care. They are putting on a facade. I mean, you look at somebody like Candace Owens, in regards to the Charlie Kirk stuff, where she's making huge waves, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's some good in there, and I think that she's well intentioned. But then when I look at and I'll keep bringing it up, things like the McGregor sexual assault, her holding water for him, is that just ignorance, or is there something more to that? The same with Weinstein. She said she looked at the case. I did a big piece on it yesterday. Look, Harvey Weinstein, with some of you got to understand, Hollywood is terrible. It is like one of the hell pits on the planet. If you've only visited the Walk of Fame and the stars, and you went to the famous theater and all these other, you have no idea what it's really like. It sucks. Okay? I cannot tell you they are the worst of the worst of the worst people. It just lying is the norm. Dishonesty is like of the highest regard. It's an awful place. So, do I think that everybody who came forward via Weinstein was telling 100% the truth? Absolutely not. If you actually look at some of these women that accused him of sexual assault, they had relationships with Harvey Weinstein for years after. Okay? Weinstein even took lie detector tests in which he passed. Hollywood is extremely transactional, okay, and extremely plastic and fake. So, in Harvey's mind, a lot of these relationships with women were those transactional sexual relationships where you slept with me or did whatever, and then I got you this job or this interview or blah, or I took you to this dinner. Like he looked at these people basically. Remember, I said things like high-end prostitute type things. Period. Now, some took to it, some didn't. And then I feel like some wanted to take revenge after the fact. I also think that the well was poisoned with some of these people, but he'd done it so many times that, there was nobody coming to Harvey Weinstein's aid after the accusations actually mounted against him. And nobody said, man, he was the best to work with. What did they all, he's a lunatic, he screamed, he was destructive, he broke things. They say that about his brother Bob, too. I don't doubt it. Like, that's the type of person that gets into power. Yeah, go ahead.
Casting couch. That whole joke or side note or whatever that's been said about Hollywood for years. Like, oh, that's why there's a couch in the room where you go to interview for a part or whatever. That guy kind of took this, or Weinstein kind of took this to like the next level, essentially, and he was the next level. I remember seeing an interview with Gwyneth Paltrow a couple of years ago, and she was talking about. And obviously she's moved on. She's doing Goop and whatever, $400,000 sweaters or something she's selling now. I don't know. But she talked about they had a deal where she didn't have to sleep with him until she won an Oscar. And he was going to get her the part to get her the Oscar.
Again.
And then she won the Oscar. So I don't know what happened after that.
So there have been a lot of people that are linked to that type of relationship, if you will, with Harvey Weinstein that have been on the peripheral. A couple names, and again, I'm going to say don't sue me. This is just what's in the gossip rings, etc. Jennifer Lawrence, Selma Hayek is another one, and you can watch just a quick interview with George Clooney, who again none of these people had any problem working with Weinstein to become famous, right? Just something you got to do. Right. He talked about, some of the names being told to him that Harvey had been with, and he couldn't believe it. But again, you can look like a gremlin, demon, goblin out of the third hell pit of Mordor in a Lord of the Rings movie. If you can make my star shine, if you can make me lovable on that big screen, people are willing to do anything. And, not only did he abuse and take advantage of that, I think, a lot of these assault claims are in fact real. I think that the Rose McGowan stuff, especially in relation to the harassment via Black Cube and others, is absolutely real. And when I watched that interview with Candace Owens. It really upset me because it didn't seem to have any kind of real journalistic integrity.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're not really dealing with an area, an industry where integrity really runs, rampant at all. And I can believe, this. I remember stories about James Dean, but with a producer who was a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, that was a story that's how he got into the movies. They all want to be famous so bad, and that these guys that are holding that are steering they'll get them to do whatever they want.
I didn't want to make this into about Hollywood rumors, but the same things have been said about Will Smith and how he was able to get into the entertainment industry. And, there's also been, it's not rumors. There's somebody out there that says that he physically witnessed Will Smith in a homosexual act. And that was one of the things that drove him and Jada Pinkett Smith apart. Of course, she had an affair openly in front of everybody,
right.
With Will Smith. And just look at their son, if that's not, an ambiguously confused individual, I don't know what to say. So, you guys can think what you want about this, but when you're talking about that type of behavior that not only compromises you, but in my opinion, confuses everything. It's not about monogamy or honesty or true relationships. It's about manipulation in a lot of cases. It's about fame and stature. Exactly. It's about all these things that, are on the peripheral. And in many cases, they seem like they're going to be the answer or you really, really want them. But at the end of the day, how happy are these people? Really, how many medications are they on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber. Diddy got a parental sign-off from his mom and was his guardian when he was like 14, 15. Then he got super famous. Where is he now? He's still doing some things, but he's obviously got some dark stuff going around in his head, and he's not right. You know what I mean? He's not. He's like very much seems like he's checked out for the most part from all the stuff. Of course, he's got plenty of money. But what amount of money takes away whatever terrible things have been done to you?
So let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's important. For those that don't know, one of the things that Diddy had in order to, I guess, find or, again, commercialize, maybe control young artists was this thing he had called Flavor Camp. And one of the alums of Flavor Camp was Usher. So, Usher was in there in that same kind of situation with Bieber long before Bieber with Diddy, where he was like 14, 15 years old, and around all of these different things. Now, he's kept his mouth shut pretty well, and so is Bieber. Let's just say that they were never abused sexually by any men. Okay, let's just start there. Let's say that did not happen. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a possibility. But as far as like absolute evidence, I haven't seen any for either of those guys. Okay, that's fine. What are the chances that even as a youngster, whether it be 14, 15, or 16, that they're having, sexual relationships with grown women? And we're talking, women maybe in their 20s or 30s through the types of parties that obviously they were not only invited to, but a part of because they were staying with Diddy at his estate many of these times, whether it be the white parties or whatever. Do you really think that's healthy for anybody? It sounds like, a teenage boy's fantasy, but it certainly warps and distorts not only your sexuality, but your intimate relationships moving forward, right? That's bare minimum. And I think bare minimum, let's say that didn't happen, and I would say chances are, of course, that happened. But let's say they were just watching those things and watching those interactions. We all pick up on the cues of our parents, our teachers, our coaches, those that are authority figures or supposed authority figures as we grow up into adulthood. So in my mind, I mean, fantastic for Usher. He never seemed to like have the total fall off, and it's not like he's had to remain super famous. Don't get me wrong, people still know who he is. If he were to do a tour, I'm sure a ton of people would go. But like he hasn't had to remain in the spotlight. I don't know that Bieber needed to remain in the spotlight. I think that he tired of it pretty quickly into his adulthood, especially after his marriage. I think that he was kind of craving the things that he didn't have as a kid. But when you're that young and you're that famous and you're that big of a cash cow, everybody wants something from you. And even if there's like this rare instance where someone doesn't want something from you, you can't even understand that, right? Because it's just the norm that everybody is out there to exploit you. So look, he's not, I guess he's probably pushing what, late 20s, maybe 30 by now?
Yeah. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a rough road ahead of him. And I would just hope that, he can manage the attention. Yeah, it's not going away, right? And whether he was abused or not, there's always going to be questions surrounding that relationship. There's always going to be questions about his rise to fame. I mean, think about our generation. Our generation was watching VH1's Behind the Music of the 80s and 70s bands, and some of the things that they were saying were absolutely insane. And you can only imagine the stories, that Bieber could tell us.
Yeah, something tells me he never will. And your comment about him, wanting to get married, and because they got married, what, 5-6 years ago, something like that, with Hailey Bieber now. It's almost like let's just run away and hide from all of this stuff that I've been seeing. Because I can't imagine being 14 or 15, and you've been living with your mom, your single mom, and you're starting to get famous and stuff like that, and then they walk you into a party like this where Diddy's got kids on tables and who knows what's going on there. That's going to scramble your brain a little bit.
It certainly is going to change the norms and mores that are going around in your mind.
Yes. It makes you wonder, that's for sure. But like I said, this has been the way it is in this industry since the beginning.
I would encourage people to go check out, like you said, some of these other stories that have been around for a very, very long time. Judy Garland, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, The Wizard of Oz, talks about the casting couch and her being, again, that Bieber age with grown men. Look, exactly. It has been a long time since there has been any real accountability for anything criminally against children with a high-profile individual in Hollywood. Full stop, period. Even stars that we know, and maybe you can forgive for having, sex with underage girls at the time in the 80s. Rob Lowe had a sex tape out there. He was younger. He's probably early 20s. But one of the girls in it is 15 years old. Nobody ever seems to talk about that. I understand that it was a different time period then, and perhaps Rob Lowe's got kids and a family, and I get it, but it just shows you again what the norms were via the entertainment industry. No one talks about Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, and you talked about how Diddy was able to get, parental consent. Steven Tyler was, touring with a 15-year-old that he got parental consent and signed over to him for years. And he was in his I think, early to mid-20s at the time. So,
Priscilla Presley?
What's that?
Priscilla
Presley. Look,
she
even in
14?
even in that, I forget what the movie was called, but it was the Cameron Crowe movie that everybody loved with the rock and roll, and I want to be Almost Famous. The Kate Hudson character, the groupie, that the underage journalist falls in love with. She's underage. She's like 15 years old in that movie.
Yeah, Yeah, she goes on tour in the summers because the rest of the time she's in high school.
Exactly. So, it's not like this stuff isn't in our face. Uh, Luckily, a lot of people have realized how, detrimental, how grotesque, how there should be accountability. But whether we're ever going to see it on a level of these billionaires and their minions remains to be seen. It seems like every time, one of these people gets caught up in one of these scandals, they end up, oh, we need to get sober. I need to go to rehab. The allegations against Kevin Spacey and that actor who said when he was 16 years old, Spacey tried to get him drunk and take advantage of him in a hotel room. He wasn't able to get justice. And I see Kevin Spacey doing interviews all over the place now.
It's like everybody kind of forgot, and now it's back to normal. Quick side story about Steven Tyler. Mm-hmm. Did you know that Liv Tyler thought Todd Rundgren was her dad?
I'm not sure who Todd Rundgren is, but I do know that she didn't meet Steven Tyler until she was pretty much into adulthood, and it was through those connections that she was able to get the acting gigs, especially in the music videos that Aerosmith was doing at the time.
Okay, so Todd Rundgren was dad. Mm-hmm. Okay? As far as she knew, and you don't know Todd Rundgren at all?
Maybe if I saw him.
I don't want to work song that's not very good. It's like, I don't want to work, I want to bang on the drum all day.
I know that song.
Okay, that's Todd Rundgren. He had, I don't know, some albums out in the 70s, 80s. He was just in the, whatever. Hello, It's Me is probably the song. That's like his first big hit. Hello, it's me, baby. That's Todd Rundgren. So anyway, he is with this lady who was with Steven Tyler back in the day. Liv Tyler's his daughter, as far as everyone knows. And then Liv Tyler happened to meet Steven Tyler in person when she was like 13 or 14, mm-hmm. and had some questions. And that's when everybody had the big conversation, oh, by the way, you're actually Steven's daughter. And then she started doing the videos for Aerosmith and all that stuff. Tyler allegedly had no idea she even existed, or that she was his. But as soon as they met, it's kind of undeniable.
They do look an awful lot alike.
What? An awful lot? She looks like a girl version of him. I mean, she looks just like him.
I don't know. I don't know. Steven Tyler's a little rough on the eyes for Jason Bermas.
I mean, nowadays, but I'm just saying, like the smile, the mouth, the face, the whole thing, man. She looks just like him.
Definitely got the facial bone structure and the kind of skinny body build for sure. I will give you that. Yeah, man. Especially with celebrities, and bastard children. One of the Clinton rumors out there is, and I don't know whether this is true. I've never hunted it down, but it does seem like the guy kind of came out of nowhere and had all these opportunities that he shouldn't have. Had his parents been who they said it was, but there have always been rumors that he was the bastard son of a Rockefeller, and that's why he was pushed. I can't confirm those. Again, we're deep in the weeds of speculation when it comes to that.
Right.
But does that type of thing make sense? Yes, we've seen this type of nepotism throughout history, whether it be legitimate or illegitimate heirs. And again, there seem to be different rules for quote-unquote famous people and super different rules for billionaires and really at this point trillionaires, because they also exist.
Who's a trillionaire?
Well, I would say that the families that actually own and run the monetary systems and the power to print money, the Rothschilds really do come to mind. The fact that they essentially have an estate in London that does not have to go by London's laws. It's kind of like the Vatican. Vatican City has its own rules and laws. If people can go look it up, they're not under the penal code. And the same thing for the Rothschilds. They have an estate there for their banking that, again, is outside of we talk about, different sets of rules for people. These ones are kind of set in stone and right in your face. So when you have the ability to mint currency and not have to back it with anything, I'd say that you're probably a trillionaire.
Yeah, I can see that argument. A lot of people say Putin because he is an authoritarian leader of Russia and he's basically in control of all their stuff. But I don't know if I would really count that as a world leader. It'd be like a king who, quote unquote, owns all the gold that his country has, or something like that. Although, Putin's busy sending eighth graders into military training, so he's probably not too worried about it anyway.
Well, you could say the same thing, right, about Xi Jinping, and I'm sure that some people will frame it that way. But for all of the might of China and all of their financial prowess, did you see that bridge this week?
What bridge?
So, literally, I think they unveiled it. What was it? Maybe 3-4 months ago. I don't even think it was 4 months ago. But they built this massive bridge on the mountainside. Okay, and it just totally and completely collapsed. I mean, devastatingly collapsed. It was a 2,487 foot long Hongai Bridge in Sichuan province, and it literally just crumbled. So look, they have a ton of resources. They have a ton of people. Obviously, the second largest populace on the globe, just behind India. I think they're at 1.2 and change, and India's at 1.3. They built what they thought was a modern marvel. But guess what? As much as human beings rock, my friend, we also suck. And to err is human. And they messed up on this one.
Is this the one that they just opened that was cutting the drive time to the top of the mountain from like 2.5 hours to 2 minutes? And it like spans the whole valley?
Correct.
Okay, we did a story on this when it just opened.
Yeah, and it's now it's closed down for good, my friend, because it crumbled into the ground.
Wow, like what? And this is not new in China. I mean, this was we had what was it, 10-ish years ago when all the new, air quote finger, new buildings that had been built in China, tons of them were falling in, falling over, falling down, and all the old stuff was fine, but all the new construction stuff was just trash. That's crazy.
It speaks to the future of everything, right? I know that we all talk about Chinese goods, but we are in a hyper globalized economy. I'm not going to sit here in a glass house just throwing stones and being like, China sucks. We just had a UPS plane explode in Kentucky. Like, I don't know if people saw that, but that's not good news. We recently had our own problem with a bridge where we had, this vessel, killing people, drive into it. We've had some really narrow near misses via planes recently with our transportation system. I hate to say it, but we've devolved in a lot of ways in quality, care, and it's not just the fact that, I think that we've been purposely dumbed down. I think there is also the greed factor there, that the let's get it done for as cheap and as quickly as possible. And I think that there's also the planned obsolescence motive of those very much at the top, that they'd like to see a lot of these systems fail so that they can take the human element out of it as soon as possible, so that they can replace most commercial airliners with drones, so they can replace most pilots with, again, software and AI, etc. And they want to do this throughout. Elon Musk just recently did an interview talking about how it's soon going to be weird in the next 5 to 10 years to see somebody physically driving a car, because not only are all the cars, pushing forward after that point going to be fully autonomous, but there will be devices that will make your current car, no matter how old it is, into an autonomously driving vehicle. This should be extremely frightening to people, because
that's alarming.
Absolutely, because it tells you what? We are being eliminated, and they are giving ample excuses to do so. They are setting us up. It doesn't have to be this way. Yes, there will be failures, right? We will try and fail. But at the same time, if things aren't about cutting corners and total profits, if the profit is the benefit to humanity, we could be doing things so much better, Aaron.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think humanity is the concern for our predator class by any means. We have been deep in the weeds with Jason Bermas, as we are every single Friday from 9 a.m. to 10, brought to you by River Cities Reader. another week of great stuff, as always. And I'll be watching for some more of these file dumps, these email dumps, and see what else we can find out.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Aaron. Really appreciate you. And that is going to do it once again, folks. If you enjoyed the broadcast, consider supporting it. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Use the buymeacoffee.com/Jason Bermas or check out the PayPal down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.